Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hi all, welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast on agriculture. After 2 years, the Indian rice industry is heaving a sigh of relief. As rice production was affected due to the vagaries of the weather, the Indian government took steps to curb export. In September 2022, it banned the exports of broken rice and imposed a 20% export duty on white rice. In July 2023, the government banned exports of white rice and imposed a 20% duty on parboiled rice. It also fixed a minimum export price of $950 a ton basmati. All these measures taken by the government to control food inflation affected exports. However, the situation has changed this year. The granaries are overflowing with rice, and it helped the government to ease curbs on rice exports. Almost all restrictions are off, barring the ban on broken rice. Tell us more about the evolving situation. We have with us Mr. Akshay Gupta, in charge of exports at KRBL. Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast on agriculture, Mr. Akshay Gupta. Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast on agriculture, Mr. Akshay Gupta. We are very happy to have you on our podcast today. Sir, the government has eased the curbs on exports, and we understand that the rice exports have increased by 80% in October, though there are people in the trade who point out that last year exports were minimal because of the ban on white rice and the 20% export duty on parboiled rice. Now, how do you see this development for the country?
All right. So this has been actually a very welcome move by the entire trade that the government has taken this year. And this has been taken on the back of a very good monsoon this year in the entire country across the regions, and which has resulted in excess area under basmati rice and non-basmati rice. And due to the excess stocks, and the government warehouses have been quite full with stocks as well due to the restrictions imposed last year. So the government decided to open the ban and lift the restrictions on duties and everything. This will really push the trade, I mean, boost the exports from India for both basmati and non-basmati rice.
And what sort of impact will opening up of the exports have on farmers?
So, I mean, see, we have to see it separately for both basmati and non-basmati. On the basmati side, there was only one restriction, which was a minimum export price, the MEP of $950. So that was affecting one variant of basmati, which is called 1509, which is the lowest priced basmati across all the varieties of basmati that we have. So exports of that variety was being restricted earlier because of this MEP. And now that the MEP has been lifted, this variety can be freely exported. And so the farmers will really get benefited. The farmers who grow this variety of 1509, they will get benefited, and they actually, there has been an impact on the crop by at least 10%. The prices have increased by 10% as soon as the restrictions were lifted on basmati MEP. So the impact directly benefited the farmers and exporters as well, because exporters could freely export any variety at any price now. So so the entire trade has been boosted because of this restriction. In terms of non-basmati, there were multiple restrictions on white rice, on parboiled rice. Eventually, everything has been lifted now, so there are no more restrictions except one, which is 100% broken rice, which is still restricted and completely banned to export. But besides that, everything has been lifted. So everything else has been lifted. So the overall impact there is that the government has excess stocks in hand, which is restricting them to buy new crop from the farmers. The farmers are mainly depending on the government to buy stocks on MSP, which is the minimum support price that the government offers. But since the government warehouses were full, the government was not able to purchase these stocks. But now the bans have been listed and everything, so this excess stocks can go in the export market. And India, being one of the largest exporters of rice in the past, is now in a perfect position to reclaim that position of being the largest exporter of rice to the world. So, both these things has a direct impact on the farmer and the exporting community.
And sir, how has the paddy crop in the Kharif season evolved, and what are the prospects for the Rabi season paddies?
So non-basmati, mainly the paddy is, sold at the MSP, which is set by the government every year. So every year the government revises the minimum support price that it offers to the farmers. And this year it was priced at around 2,300 rupees per quintal of rice. So this is the prevailing paddy price that is sold in the market, and the government is the biggest buyer of this crop. And even the private trade, tends to buy at the government set price only, because that is the prevailing price in the market. So prices increase every year, and because of the lifting of restrictions, there have been opportunistic trade opportunities for the exporting community, wherein private traders have also come in the market to take excess stocks. So, I mean, I would say the pricing for the paddy has remained the same, but there are more buyers for the same paddy now. So the farmer is able to sell the stocks easily. So yeah, non-basmati is a kharif product. I mean, 70 to 75% of the crop comes in kharif season, and about 20-25% comes in the rabi season.
So how has the production been during the Kharif season, and how do you see the production coming up during?
So kharif season, what we are hearing from the market and from the trade is that the crop is actually increased this year. The area under cultivation has increased by about 10 to 15% over last year. And this is mainly because of good monsoons across the country. So this excess area under cultivation has led the government to, has forced the government to lift up the restrictions. And yeah, and for the Rabi season, we expect the same trend to continue, because Rabi is a much smaller crop. But again, about 20% of the rice is harvested at that time. So we expect the same trend to continue and farmers to get good volumes because there's no more restrictions on exports now.
Sir, how is the situation with regard to basmati rice? Will India gain further market after the MEP has been?
See, India has been the largest exporter of basmati, and the only rival nation that can offer basmati is Pakistan. So the area under basmati in India is much bigger than what it is in Pakistan. So if you see historically, India exports about 4.5 to 5 million tons of basmati, whereas Pakistan exports nearly about zero point 0.8 to 1 million tons of basmati. Last year, when the restrictions were put in place, I would say nearly about 500,000 ton of quantities were shifted to Pakistan because of the restrictive pricing. The MEP did not allow India to export that last 500,000 tons, which is at a low price. And Pakistan took advantage of that pricing, and they were able to export higher quantities. But now that the restrictions have been removed, India can regain that quantity this year, and we are expecting about 5 million plus export this year for basmati rice.
Sir, what are the steps you think the
Yeah.
government should take to help the rice industry?
See, in terms of basmati, it's mainly an export commodity. So we normally, advise the government to, leave it at a free trade. A lot of government intervention in basmati rice, creates a lot of hurdles because it is not a domestic consumption crop. I would say mostly 60 to 65% of the crop is exported out of India, and about 30-35% is consumed. So we normally ask the government to have least restrictive policies on basmati rice. And it should be a free trade, and farmers naturally get a good price on basmati because it's a premium variant and consumed by premium markets across the world. In terms of non-basmati, you know, it- there are a lot of things that the government needs to intervene. Firstly, the research on varieties. That is one of the major things because India has been growing the same varieties of rice for the last 10, 12 years, and there's not been a lot of research on high yielding varieties. So in the same area of cultivation, example, China or other countries like Philippines are able to grow much higher yielding crops, whereas the yields in India are quite lower. So government intervention there could, boost the production capacity of India and thereby impacting the prices. We can have much lower prices in India if the high yield varieties are grown across.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta, for your very insightful views. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. Until we meet in the next episode, this is Subramani signing off. Bye.